So, hello and welcome to this very special conversation. The reason we are here today is that in 2024, Ashoka completed 10 years of admitting its first undergraduate batch. We have with us a very special guest, Mr. Ashish Dhawan. Ashish is one of the main co-founders of Ashoka University. Thank you for taking up the time and talking to us.
Pleasure.
So Ashish, it's been 10 years since Ashoka admitted its first undergraduate students. What do you feel, and how does this feel, and have you and the other founders gotten together and celebrated?
No, it feels great. When we started, we had no idea what Ashoka would really look like 10 years out. There are always plans.
Yeah.
But to have now a thriving university, an alumni base of almost 5,000, 3,000 students on campus, a brand that's, I think known quite well across the country and even in some parts abroad without any newspaper ads.
Yeah.
I think was sort of beyond our imagination in some ways. How did we celebrate? We had a Founders Day, and I think this was a special one because it was the 10th.
Yeah.
Had a few drinks to celebrate, but beyond that, I think we realized there's a long journey ahead. So,
Okay.
It's one pit stop.
Yeah.
In a long journey.
Yeah.
So I think it takes 30 years to build a really good university.
Okay.
So we've come a third of the way, but long road ahead.
So Ashish, people from my batch or later batches, we think of Ashoka as any other established university. I mean, we can't think of Ashoka as an idea that was being discussed over at a party. So can you give us a sense of how you and Sanjeev came together, how you met Vineet and his group of IIT alumni, how Pramath got involved in this, and just give us a sense of those days where there was hope and optimism around it, but there was ambiguity and uncertainty. How did it all begin?
Yeah. So actually in 2007, I had met Sanjeev earlier, Sanjeev Bikhchandani, but he reached out and we had lunch actually at the Oberoi Hotel. My office used to be there. So he came over, had lunch. And he sprung this up on me, saying that, look, I've been to St. Stephen's. It was a great place. We should create a new college in India. And his daughter had just gotten into Columbia at that point in time. So he was aware of, this idea of a broad education, etc. I was very excited because I always had an interest in education. And
but this idea of starting a new college altogether, did you have an idea, or was when Sanjeev came to you, it was completely out of the blue?
It was a latent idea, I would say. But when Sanjeev came, it became activated.
Yeah.
So I almost instantly said, yes, it's a great idea. I think something needs to... Anyway, India needs many more universities. I think something that is truly interdisciplinary, holistic, even more so.
Okay.
So that really appealed to me. And I had been to one, even though I had been abroad.
Yeah.
I felt my education was a interdisciplinary, holistic education. So, and then Vineet, as you mentioned, had a group of IITians who were interested in setting more of an engineering type tech college. We met as a group. In fact, we used to meet once a month on a Saturday at my office in the Oberoi. And we had several meetings, but like every large group, you talk and talk and talk. Yeah. And then the global financial crisis hit.
Okay.
We had hired a small team, Aman Gupta, a couple of other people, and we just said we'll set up a small project office to scout for land, talk to state governments, understand the state acts, etc. So that little bit of work started.
Okay.
Once the global financial crisis hit, everybody was in disarray. And we said, we're not sure when this will happen, what will happen, etc. And then it progressed. We did some meetings with different state governments. There were many states that were interested, which had very attractive deals. There was even a Sri City in Andhra, which was very interested. The founder had invited us. But also Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, many other places. I think we felt that Haryana was the best simply because if all of us are based in Delhi, being close to the university would make it easier.
Okay.
In terms of just when you're getting started, you need to invest time, etc. And also Haryana had a very progressive act,
Okay.
Private Universities Act. And when we met the Chief Minister, bureaucrats, I think they were quite welcoming. They had already designated land for an education city. So we picked Haryana, and then actually Sanjeev and I were at a party dinner where the Yale team was in.
The Yale president was
Yeah,
visiting.
yeah, and it was at someone's home actually in Gurgaon, and we were sitting out in the backyard. The two of us were chatting, and we had to make the payment for the land to secure the land, and it was 48 hours away. And so Sanjeev and I said, because when you're in a largish group, it's hard to sometimes reach a consensus.
Yeah.
So the two of us just said, we'll go 50-50, put the money in, and let's secure it. That's the only way we'll really get going. Otherwise, ye baatcheet chalti jayegi.
Yeah.
So that's how it sort of happened, and then we got going with this initiative.
Is that how Ashoka is also a liberal arts university, not a liberal arts plus engineering and the bigger plan?
So I think what we said at that time when we came up with the idea, and when Sanjeev and I put in, we said, what we care about most, I think different people have different interpretations of liberal arts in India. Some people think of it as fine arts or humanities. I think our view was we want interdisciplinarities at the core.
Okay.
We want people to have a holistic education. So they should be well-rounded students coming out and have a lot of 21st century skills. That's what's important. We thought that professional education was more crowded.
Okay.
So having an impact there would be harder to start with. So it made sense to start with humanities, social sciences, early on. We didn't have all the sciences at the beginning.
Yeah.
We had computer science and mathematics. We added some of the other pure sciences later in 2017. But the vision was to go broader, but over a period of time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think right now we're in a fairly comfortable position. We cover about 20 disciplines, not all of which offer a major. But I think we could add to this a bit, over time.
Okay. So Ashish, you've mentioned in an interview that Sanjeev, you, Pramad and Vineet had a WhatsApp group named the Huddle. Do you people still have it, and do you people still meet every month?
No, we used to. I would say it's become less frequent now. I think the hallmark of any good institution after a while is not that you become redundant, but it should really pass on to the administration.
Okay.
And so I would say today we are in a good place where between the Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Deans, the various non-academic administrative leaders, the university is really run by them. We are involved on the Board of Trustees, governing body, on, I would say, new projects, new initiatives, raising resources, things like that, but not with day-to-day matters as much. So there's no regular meeting as such. But we do meet from time to time.
Yeah. Were memes and GIFs sent on the group?
Especially when Sanjeev was called Takla Buddha, that one did go around.
Okay. Ashish, during this decade and a half long journey, what were some highs in this journey when you thought, oh damn, we made it? And thank God we did it.
Yeah, I think the highs always come from students.
Okay.
I think to see students get the Rhodes, or so many students have gotten the Fulbright, Marshall, Cambridge. I mean, amazing, get into top PhD programs. I just spoke with a student who had graduated a little earlier last week, and she got into both Stanford Business School and Harvard Business School. And I was like, this is like you're spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
And she was stressing over the decision, right? This is a good choice to have.
Yeah.
So I think the highs come from students to see how well they're doing. I'm actually going to Africa in 2 weeks. It's just a joy that I called one of our folks and they said, we've reached out to alum, and not only are the alums in Addis Ababa willing to meet, they're excited, but some are going to come in from outside Ethiopia because they want to. So I think there's a real joy in seeing how well Ashoka students are doing in different spheres, whether it's in corporate world, startups, academia, media, the artistic endeavors, government. Some people have gone into IAS or IFS. I think that's really the big joy.
Okay.
And what was completely unexpected is we never thought that we would get applications from every nook and corner of India, now from almost 500 towns and cities,
Oh.
and also from about 40 countries outside India. So I think that just blew our mind that within a decade, I mean, if that had happened 20, 30 years later, one thing, but the fact that it happened so soon, I think is something that we were not expecting.
Okay. So during this journey, what would you say were some low moments or some challenges that you people faced?
There are lots of challenges. I think one big constraint we had early on is we were only able to secure 25 acres of land. And to build any great university, you need much more by way of physical space. So we quickly, we thought at that point, this is what government was allotting, and we bid for it, we got it. But we quickly realized you can't build a real good institution on that. So that was a major challenge. We have, faced challenges when it comes to raising resources. I mean, we've done a great job. I think we're secure. But, early on especially, when Ashoka was completely unknown and you have no alumni base, it is a real challenge. So I think there are always, like any startup, there are, moments when you struggle a bit. But I think we've come through a lot of those struggles. And I mean, I'm sure there'll be other challenges as we go forward in the journey. But we're in a much better position than when we were in the early days, at least.
Do you remember any specific moments, like specific lows in this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think lows like, we've had moments when you refuse admission to a student and some people get angry and, almost veiled threats. I think those are low moments because, you set up things with good intentions and you never think it'll come to that. Although I must say most people are very, very civilized about it. Even when they do make a request.
Okay.
And I think Ashoka has been quite purist in terms of saying that we want to keep the admissions process protected from all of this. And so I think that is a real challenge.
Sanjeev has mentioned elsewhere that you were always the one who was against people tampering in the admissions process, and you were the ones always telling everyone to hold the line. So I want to ask you, where and why did this conviction about the admissions process comes in for you?
I think, look, we learned that I think the great thing with public institutions in India, IITs, IIMs, is they really, because they're test-based, they have stayed meritocratic. People have not been able to tamper. Every once in a blue moon you hear about some test leaking or something, but that gets course-corrected. And one of the reasons you see great talent coming out of all these institutions is because the admissions process has been sacrosanct. So I think we felt it was very important that's the case. Otherwise, you'd be shortchanging good students. And two is, I think India is a place where if you start compromising, you open the door 1 inch and it'll start to get blown down very quickly. So I think that was the concern, is, the word gets around very quickly. कि ये तो यहाँ पे management quota है 5% or whatever. So there was no management quota, none of that. And we said we leave it really to the team. In fact, in the early days, a couple of us were on the admissions committee just to make sure that things were going well, there was a check, all of that. Now we got off of it and it's truly the internal folks, the Vice Chancellor, a couple of trustees, but outside of the people who were involved in the early days, who are involved in that process.
So, Ashish, you were the founding chairperson of the Board of Trustees of Ashoka. Now, firstly, can you tell us what is the Board of Trustees? What does a chairperson do? And as the founding chairperson, when processes and institutions were not in place, how did those early days look like? What were your responsibilities? And what did your day-to-day look like?
Sure. So I think normally when you're chairperson of a board, you are just making sure the board functions well.
Okay.
What is the agenda for the board? Board meetings are run well. You assess management or the people running the organization. You take stock of policies and things. But I think given that we were a young institution, I think it entailed more than that. And so I think it meant not just me, but a few of the others also. So I think it was not just the chairperson, but really core founders at that stage who were much more actively involved in helping the Vice Chancellor or working on any new initiative where bandwidth was required, whether it was convincing a faculty member to join or starting a new body of work or figuring out the master plan for building out the next phase of the institution. So all of those things, we were engaged with because it was the startup institution. So I think it was a fairly reasonably hands-on without interfering with what is the core scope of the Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellor, etc.
Okay. And Ashish, you were responsible for fundraising for Ashoka. So are you still involved in the fundraising?
No, so the way we were set up is we said, we are a little bit unique where the Vice Chancellor really looks after academic matters. The Pro VC, who's not an academic, and now we have two, Rama and Venkat, really look after the non-academic side of the house. In fact, one of them, Venkat, looks after fundraising.
Okay.
And he was early on, I was tasked with just supervising it because we didn't want the Vice Chancellor to be burdened with this work. And Venkat was the leader of this effort, has been leading it for 10 years. And then over time, we built a team.
Okay.
And now Gitanjali also has a team. So we have a fully organized, development office. They lead the effort. Wherever help is required, I or other founders are happy to help. But it's led by the institution.
Okay.
Because again, we didn't want the Vice Chancellor to be burdened with fundraising. Some of the reviews and things like that, instead of the Vice Chancellor doing it, we support with it. But really, I would say it's now managed mostly by the team.
Okay. And Ashish, the higher education landscape in India, I think, has changed a little bit from when Ashoka was starting up. There are many more private universities asking for funds and donations. There are also public universities have started setting up endowment funds, like most prominently, I think, Nandan Nilekani's donation to IIT Bombay, and DU and BHU have also set up endowment funds. In this environment, is it tougher to raise funds for Ashoka, or on the other hand, it's become easier because Ashoka is an established university now?
No, I think Ashoka is established, so I think that makes it somewhat easier. I think you're right that, look, there are more institutions, and particularly I'm so happy that the public institutions, if I look at the top 4 or 5 IITs, they all have a proper development office. They have alumni who've come forward and made very large gifts. Even look at the Indian Institute of Science when they were setting up a new hospital, medical school. It's amazing how people step forward and they've raised hundreds of crores in a short period of time. IIMs are doing that as well. IIM Ahmedabad has mobilized quite a bit. So Ashoka was early off the blocks. I'm so happy that many others have taken that playbook, and the market grows, honestly.
Okay.
I don't
It's
view
not
it
a
as,
crowded market now.
look, sometimes you do, people will decide. But I think because India has created so much wealth, thanks to the growth of the country, and more Indians really want to give back. It's not, many of the people who've given to Ashoka have also given to IIM Ahmedabad.
Okay.
So I would look, if you look at the governing or whatever, that board of trustees who look after the development effort at IIM Ahmedabad, there are 10 of them. I think 4 or 5 maybe Ashoka donors as well.
Okay.
So it's not, I don't think these are mutually exclusive. So on the margin, yes, there will be more options for people, but I also think the market is growing in line. So I don't think it's been a challenge per se, but I'm really happy that because India needs to build, 100 flowers need to bloom. We need 100 new private universities. We need 100 best public institutions also to shine. So that's the only way we'll have, a couple of hundred leading institutions in the country, research and teaching institutions. So I'm a big believer that it's not a zero-sum game at all.
Okay.
I think it's about all of us wanting higher education in India to succeed and getting more people in India to give towards higher education.
Ashish, is there an iconic Ashish line when you're talking to donors, or do you have an elevator pitch for Ashoka?
I think the elevator pitch is really that we are a pioneer in interdisciplinary higher education. We started with the first university to really offer students choice, to really offer this interdisciplinarity, holistic education. And I think the reason to give to Ashoka is that we can become a model for doing that across the country. The same way IITs were a model for engineering colleges, made engineering prestigious. IIMs made management education prestigious. I think Ashoka stands not just for, I think liberal arts is sometimes misunderstood, but for interdisciplinary and holistic education. And now I'm so happy that the NEP 2020 actually calls this out, where all of Indian higher ed actually is going to move in the direction of interdisciplinary and holistic. Those are the two words used in NEP
and
by
4-year
2040.
Degree programs also.
And 4-year degree programs. So that was the whole purpose, is that can we show a model? And I'm so happy that 4-year has now been accepted by NEP. That the idea of interdisciplinary and holistic has been accepted by NEP. Because one Ashoka is not going to make a difference in Indian higher ed by itself. You know, we are today 3,000 students. We'll scale to 8,000-10,000 students. But Indian higher ed already has 44 million students. Indian higher ed by 2030 will have 50-55 million students.
Yes.
So Ashoka is a drop in the bucket. So the bigger influence is the ripple effects of the model. If others look at this model, you know, the same ripple effect of a few IITs being set up on engineering becoming prestigious. So that to me is the bigger thing. Ashoka should do well, should thrive, but I think all of us should care more about the country and the development of higher education in the country.
Okay. Ashish, did you have a victory tradition after raising some funds for Ashoka? Did you have a specific ritual?
No, I don't think there's any particular, it's more we always celebrate, virtually for sure.
Okay.
Like, you know, thumbs up, congratulate the person.
Yeah.
When we meet, we just thank the person who's done it. We obviously, the Vice Chancellor sends out a letter to thank the person for the commitment they're making. But there's no particular ritual. I think if we had to buy drinks every time, we'd burn a hole through our pockets.
Okay. What's the most ridiculous question a donor has asked you?
I think ridiculous would be there's someone who basically wanted a seat for his son in exchange for making a meaningful donation.
Okay.
And his son was in 10th grade. He was quite explicit about it, saying that I've got a son in 10th grade. He's good, but he was worried that his son wouldn't make it to Ashoka or a good university. And the answer was an outright no to taking that person's money.
Yeah.
But I thought it was, it was ridiculous. This person even thought that such a quid pro quo was possible.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Ashish, who were the most difficult people in terms of founders or faculty members to convince? Who were the most difficult people to convince to join Ashoka?
So I think Pramath did a lot of the hard work early on to recruit faculty members when we had no campus even.
Yeah.
The campus was being developed. You know, the YF had started. So I think even getting people to teach in the YF, but then convincing Rudrangshu, who frankly had been working at the Telegraph, was not in academia, and who had taught in the YF earlier as a visiting professor, to convince him to join Ashoka as the founding vice chancellor. That was a bold bet and difficult. And then convincing faculty who were leaving jobs in the US to move to India. I think Pramath did a lot of that.
Okay.
So it's better, you're better off asking him
Okay.
that question. I think that was hard. I think also convincing the initial set of people, there were Sanjeev and I, and then we had for the YF actually, because we had a budget of about 5 lakhs for the first year, we came up with this idea, and there were only just below 60 students, 57 students. That is about 8 lakhs per student. So we went to friends and said, listen, why don't you sponsor one student for 8 lakhs? So even that happened, but then every year one would have to fundraise. So I think to get the first set of people to actually commit more significantly and to be more deeply engaged as founders with Ashoka was a challenge.
Okay. And Ashish, the corpus of funds that Ashoka has, many universities invest that fund. Do we plan to invest it sometime in the future?
No, see, we are in a different position. We
Okay.
don't have a large endowment because we are still building the university, right? So we have a lot of money that we need to spend over the next few years. So to give you an idea, I think just between, forget what's going to be ready now, which you can see those buildings next to campus. But we have 2 other residential towers, academic buildings, faculty village, all that will come up in the next 3 years. That alone will cost us about 800 crore.
Okay.
Just to do that.
Yeah.
And in addition, we want to buy some more land, etc. So, we don't have even though we may have money in the bank today, the needs for funding are much greater than even what we have today. So I think the question of endowment doesn't arise right now.
Okay.
And if you look at the P&L for Ashoka, student funding is there. About half the students get some form of financial aid.
Yeah.
And so about 30% of the fee pool is given away as financial aid.
Okay.
Right? To 50% of the students in terms of number of students. But if you look on just the year-to-year basis, right? Ashoka doesn't break even.
Okay. Is it running a deficit?
Yeah. It runs a deficit, and then when we factor in depreciation, it runs a deficit, even more. We do raise money every year, so it more than covers for it. But we've kept that manageable, so that it doesn't pose a risk. But we do run a deficit year to year. I mean, order of magnitude, I'll tell you, post depreciation, it's about a 30 crore annual deficit.
Okay. Now, Ashish, a couple of quick questions, and you'll have to answer them quickly. What was the last show you watched, the last movie you watched, the last song you liked, and the last book you read?
The last book I read was Kartik Muralidharan's book that's just
Accelerating
come out.
India's
India's Development. The last show that I watched was a long time back. I watched Fauda 3. The last movie that I saw was, it's been a while, I can't even remember, maybe Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Or Gangubai, I think one of those, but it's been a year since I watched a movie. I'm not a big OTT person or a movie watching person at home. And then you asked...
The last song you liked?
The last song
on your Spotify or...
I just listened to Phil Collins in the morning today, and I love Phil Collins.
Okay.
I love AP Dhillon.
Okay. Oh.
So that's... you guys will be surprised.
Yeah.
I can...
Is that your morning or gym pump?
I have various gym workout things.
Okay.
I have Punjabi, I have Spanish, I have 80s, I have the current set of... So various... I like lots of genres of music. And Bollywood, of course, as well.
Ashish, tell us something about yourself that not a lot of people know.
I would say that... few things. One is that I'm actually a fun guy.
Okay.
I'm serious at work. I'm very task oriented. Yeah. I want to get things done. I'm ambitious. But I actually have a pretty fun outlook to life in terms of...
We think you're fun. Do people not think you're fun?
No, I think those who meet me in a work context think of me as a serious person. I have a serious facade. I don't wear my emotion on my sleeve, etc. So I think one is I'm definitely... have a lighter side to me.
Okay.
And I have lots of interests beyond just my work life.
Okay.
So that's one part. I would say a second part is, while I connect with people, I don't show my emotions easily.
Okay.
But I do care.
Okay.
And so I have emotions, they may be buried somewhere, but they don't show themselves so easily. But they are there, rest assured. And third thing is, I'm selfish too. which is, I think a lot of people, because I left the corporate world 12 years ago to focus on philanthropic work, not just Ashoka, but I do many other things, think that I'm doing some great service or whatever. But at the core, it's also, it gives me joy.
Yeah.
It's something that I really want to do for my own sake. I was lucky that I did well financially, so I could do it. So I'm selfish in that sense. I protect my time. I protect things that I'm interested in. And I don't get swayed easily by just what somebody else is doing.
Yeah. Okay. What are some of the other interests apart from work that you mentioned?
I love music.
Okay.
I love.
Have you ever tried your hand at playing an instrument or singing?
I wish I had. I should have. I would have loved to play the guitar well or the drums, but no. My son started for a while, and I was starting to at least understand it a bit, but not right now. But I love listening to music.
Okay. Do you sing?
Huh?
Do you sing?
No, I don't sing. My wife sings.
Okay.
I'm a bathroom shower singer at best. I like reading, of course. I love travel.
Okay.
I have a lot of interest in geopolitics, policy-related work, economic growth related work. I like working out.
Okay.
I don't play as much sport now, but I do like sport. But I work out almost every day.
Do you gym?
I go to the gym every day.
Okay.
Every day.
Oh.
So I'm a bit of a. I like fitness. So yeah, those are some of the things outside of work.
Okay. Ashish, have you tried? You must have tried food at the Ashoka campus, right? Can you rank your favorite food outlets on campus?
I would say dhaba best. I don't eat that kind of food regularly.
Okay.
So having that dollop of white butter on a good aloo paratha is a treat. It's a cheat treat. I like the food truck.
Okay.
I think
the roti boti.
Roti boti.
Okay.
The meat is good. I don't mind canteen food actually.
Oh, the mess food.
The mess food. I think the South Indian or whatever, some just basic sabzi I found is reasonably okay. I haven't tried the momos and stuff, to be honest. But those are the ones that I like best.
Any specific courses or professors' classes that you would want to sit in on campus?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I like history. And so definitely Nanjo, Tupinder, Rudrangshu, many of the others, some of the younger faculty I would love to. I like geopolitics IR, so Srinath's class, maybe Ambassador Menon's class, a few others. I like physics, so possibly, and math.
Oh.
But I don't know if I'd want to do the hard math again. But I would say maybe Shomok's class, Deepankar's class. I like economics. So Ashwini, I'm a big fan. Kanika, Anisha. I know all of them, and I like their work. I read their research papers.
Okay.
So I wouldn't mind being in their class. Humanities, very good at Ashoka. So a philosophy class. I've heard Kranti speak. He's a great teacher. I've had Gil, do his Bollywood and Shakespeare. So Rita's translation work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there are many. I just don't have the time to be able to do it.
Do you follow the clubs and societies at Ashoka?
Not too many. Some of the clubs do reach out, particularly the investment club, entrepreneurship. So those kind of clubs. But I don't follow all the other clubs at Ashoka as much.
If you had to join any of the clubs or society, leave about the investment club.
Yeah, I think I don't know much and don't appreciate Hindi and vernacular literature as much. So I think it's called the Hindvi club.
Hindvi.
I would like to join out of curiosity to see what they do. And I don't know many of the other clubs, to be honest.
Okay.
So I can't tell you. I mean, at theatre, I'm terrible at, so maybe I'd learn a thing or two.
Okay, but they're very selective. I don't think they would take
wouldn't
you.
allow me.
Yeah.
The investment club, I may qualify.
Yeah. Actually, shout out to the investment club. The president is my roommate.
Oh, they're very good, I must say.
I think they're starting a new fund, or the Bodhi Capital.
They're starting a new fund, and I'm very happy for them because
Yeah.
they were already doing something.
Yeah.
But I think they're professionalizing it further.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of initiative there in terms of students having their own interest in the subject, they very strategically CC me when they invite some of these speakers, because they know, and then I write on it, just pushing that person. So I play a small role. But I like the initiative, that they're really self-starters. And I think that's true of all the clubs. I think students really take the initiative and go make it happen.
Ashish, if you were a student and you had to spend one day on campus, what would that day look like? Don't tell me you would attend
No,
classes.
I wouldn't attend classes.
Okay,
I would focus much more on milling around. I think I'd want to sit in on maybe some of the discussions around the canteen, the mess, sitting outside, be part of that. I'd want to be at night around the dhaba and the food truck and enjoy that. So I think I'd like to mill around and be part of student life. And I'm
maybe lie in the mess lounge.
I'm a different generation. I think I can blend in.
Okay.
So if I ever were invited to be part of the group, I wouldn't mind joining.
You think you have the spirit?
I have the spirit, and I think I'm also, there is a set of people who believe that their generation was like the best.
Yeah.
I don't have that view, at least. I mean, I appreciate the music of this generation. I actually think every generation has something special, and you evolve. I mean, you have a different perspective. So I'm open-minded, is the way I would describe it, and I'm quite light-hearted. So.
Okay. Ashish, do you know what a finbro is?
No, I don't.
Finbro it's a combination of finance bro. It's a confident masculine person who knows finance, is into finance.
You're pointing.
Are you a finbro?
I would have been.
Okay.
I would have been. Yeah, I would. I mean, I was definitely. I came from a world. I worked on Wall Street, coming straight out. I was in private equity. I worked for hedge fund. I started Chris Capital. So I would. Yeah, there was a little bit of macho culture in these places. I also. You tend to get a little cocky when you start doing well, and money gets to your head a little bit. You also start to, there's that book, Master of the Universe or whatever.
Okay.
I wasn't at that level of thinking that I was something super special. But I think you do develop a sense of bravado and overconfidence. And I was very young. I was like 30 when I started Chris Capital.
Okay.
And within the first 2-3 years, because we were one of the few funds, I was on the front page of magazines and this and that.
The Wizards of Dalal Street.
Some nonsense. The Great Gambler, all this nonsense. And that, fortunately, I didn't let it get my head get inflated or get to my, for too long.
Okay.
But you do have a little bit of the syndrome you're alluding to. And maybe as I transition to this career, some of it has worn off.
Now, Ashish, we have a couple of serious questions for you.
Yeah.
What is the one innovation or the more appropriate word, jugaad, in the Ashoka journey that you're very proud of?
I think there are a few innovations in the Ashoka journey. I think one is this entrepreneurship program.
Okay.
I think is an innovation. The fact that there are very diverse set of courses and that give students a very different perspective. So I think it's not what most traditional universities have. That's an innovation. I think the visiting faculty model, most universities wouldn't have used. I think it was a bit of a jugaad. Now, it was born out of necessity because we didn't have a lot of faculty in the beginning. And so you had to bring in visiting faculty. I think the YF is a bit of a jugaad.
Yeah.
It's like, putting together a program when you're not a university.
Yeah.
And
And
also
on a
doing
low
it when you don't have faculty.
Yeah.
And then there's chota semesters.
Yeah.
you
And
know,
on a
6
low
weeks.
budget.
Low budget, innovating, getting it started.
Hmm.
I think that was. So I think there's several of these small sort of innovations. I think
Okay.
even a lot of the centers getting up.
Hmm.
A lot of the entrepreneurial, just tapping into the entrepreneurial spirit
Okay.
of a number of people. It's their initiative, but giving them a little bit of money to get started or the confidence, as it were. So Ashoka today has 20 plus centers. And if we had very formal process, some of these things wouldn't have started.
Okay. So there's no fixed process.
No, now there are.
Okay.
So I think you reach a certain stage
Yeah.
when you need it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we were entrepreneurial at a certain stage and got these things up and running quickly. But yes, we do have a committee. We do look at the finances because when it becomes larger, it can blow a hole through your pocket. And you could also just have people going all over the place. So you then need to systematize and say what are the objectives and things like that, while still staying reasonably entrepreneurial.
Okay. Ashish, there have been allegations from many sides since Ashoka's began that Ashoka is an elite space. How do you respond to that?
So, look, Ashoka does get students who are from top schools in India, from well-off background. There's no doubt. I mean, because our fees are reasonably high, and there are, as I said, 50% of the students who are paying full fare. I think what gets missed out often is there are also 50% who are on financial aid. And we do have a very diverse set of students coming from all over the country. There are students coming from small towns. It's not just students only from the best metros or the top schools in the metros. And I don't think that story has been told well enough. And I sometimes think a statistic alone can't tell the story, the 50%. There was recently, Ashoka, one of the teams, came up with a video on Ashoka Sports. I don't know if you've seen it, but it just came out.
Okay.
And I really liked it because very earthy. There were students who were speaking English, who were obviously from metro schools, but equally students who were speaking Hindi or vernacular language, and you could see even some speaking English with a more vernacular accent. And I think that is really what Ashoka truly is. I mean, it does have a large set of students who come from more privileged background, but it does have diversity as well. And that showed up, at least in that video that I saw. Too many of the things we do really are much more very English-speaking, very metro-centric. So I think partly it's our own fault that that's the way Ashoka has been positioned, and we have to work hard to get the message out, but also to shift the needle. Genuinely take more students from outside the metros and genuinely get the message out that those students are thriving at Ashoka.
Okay. So there needs to be effort on two parts, on increasing the diversity of students that enter Ashoka and also the messaging.
That's true.
Okay. Now, Ashish, about the new campus that we see besides our old campus, by when are we planning to inaugurate it? And I mean, it's mentioned that the new campus is about new age science and deep tech wings. So why was there a need for a separate campus for the sciences?
No, it's not a separate campus. Actually, if you look at the development of so we have 25 acres on this side. We have another 2.5 acres adjacent to it, which we will develop between us and the fire station, the police. So that's 27.5 acres on this side. And we have about 68 odd acres or something like that on the other side. Right? We just developed a very narrow slice, about 5 acres of it. What we needed immediately was a building for the sciences with a lot of equipment and particularly biosciences and chemistry and things like that, which we didn't have in the existing. The existing science building also has a lot of classrooms, teaching labs, things like that. So that was one thing. We have 2 large residence buildings there, a gym. We have a small innovation center so entrepreneurship, all that can come there. If you look at the further development of that campus, a lot of faculty housing, a lot of
Okay.
additional student residence, many other academic buildings
Okay.
will come up. In fact, one of the things we're looking at is moving towards a structure where we have schools. School of Humanities,
Yeah.
which has already been announced, a School of Social Sciences, School of Economics,
Yeah.
School of... So I can see, specific buildings for these schools also on the
Okay.
new campus. So it's not going to be exclusively science.
Okay. Okay.
It'll be representative of all of Ashoka. It just so happens that the first building outside the residences happens to be a
Okay.
science building.
By when are we planning to inaugurate this?
Oh,
these
sorry.
5 acres?
So this will be ready by the next semester.
Okay.
So as students will actually be staying in these new buildings next semester.
Okay.
And the facilities also of the science and the innovation center will be used next semester.
Okay.
But then the next phase that will get developed will take 2 to 3 years, or 3 years, I would say.
The 60 odd acres left.
Not all of it, even that will be developed in phases.
Okay.
Yeah. There are in fact 3 further phases.
Okay.
And that next big phase, we've just master planning it, and we'll then select the contractor and start the work.
Yeah. Ashish, I also want to talk to you about, recently, the past couple of years, the exponential growth in technology that we're seeing around the world has dominated our conversations, the chat GPTs, LLMs. And you've talked about how the education Ashoka provides its students is a 21st century education that creates interdisciplinary critical thinkers, and they will survive in any work, they will thrive in any workplace. But is there a thinking within the institution about how these technological changes are fundamentally different? Do you believe they are fundamentally different, or do you think they're the same? Does there need to be more thinking about this?
Yeah. So we have had some discussion. I wouldn't say that we've made any radical changes so far. But I think firstly, we have a core belief that the physical experience is like the most important thing. I think during COVID, the students experienced it, being away from camp. So I think there were some questions earlier in this ed tech online education era that will the university get disrupted, all that. I don't think so.
Okay.
Right? Particularly core undergraduate education. I think the big thing is being away from home, experiencing diversity, really being inspired by faculty, doing lots of things outside the classroom, including conversations with friends at 1 a.m., etc.
Yeah.
So I think that is here to stay. I think could we do more in terms of offering more courses, building it? Yes, and those are in the works. So already I think Ashoka's computer science department, if you look at it, we had 1 senior professor who joined 2 years ago. 3 more have joined in the last 3 months.
I think Sandeep
Sen, who was the dean at Shiv Nadar, Sandeep Juneja from TIFR, and PPD from IIT Kharagpur, and PPC, who is the former director, has been helping us as an advisor.
Okay.
So we've seriously, and we will be hiring many more in computer science. That doesn't mean to say that other parts of the university are not growing. We just made a recruit in IR, and then there was another person who had applied who was very good. So even though the intention was to hire 1, I think the dean has decided it makes sense to get possibly 2 if the second person wants to join. So across the board, I mean, it's good. But I think here, you could even see at some point that there's a degree program in data science or AI, more courses being offered in these disciplines. But we don't want to tilt the university. We are not just about one thing. I think Ashoka is a broad university. There are some areas like the humanities where, yes, there'll be some work in digital humanities. But I think, frankly, what AI will do is it'll make us focus on becoming more human.
Okay.
Because that's at the core what differentiates us. If technology can do a bunch of other, and if you don't even need to program anymore, if the machine can do it, I think at the core, humanistic endeavors should become more important. So I believe that in Ashoka education, where you get exposure to the humanities, social science, but yet science and the cutting edge of science is the way forward.
Okay. Ashish, you went to college around 3.5 decades back. Do you think college life has fundamentally changed from then to now?
I don't know, hard for me to put myself in the shoes. I don't think it's changed that much.
Okay.
I mean, I have a daughter who's just graduating from Yale this in May, and I was there, I don't know, a long time back.
Okay.
As you said, I graduated 32 years ago. I think at the core it's still similar. Universities don't change so quickly. Of course, students are so much better informed today because of technology. I think, even sitting in India, you're much more of a global citizen. I went abroad for undergrad, and I felt that I got a very different education from my schoolmates who were in India, right? And that made me a somewhat different person. I think that divide doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
I think you can go to college in India today, you're a global citizen, you're exposed, you can do a semester, you can travel, etc. So that has collapsed.
Okay.
So in that sense, I think it's different here in India. And I think the confidence students have is far greater than what we did. I mean, we had a great time in college, but I had nowhere near the self-awareness nor the confidence that students have today.
Don't you think students have become much more busier, much more, they're thinking much more about their future?
Yeah, I do think that there is a lot of stress today.
Yeah.
Technology also and information overload causes its own stress. We've seen that mental health has become, not to say it didn't exist when we were there, maybe some of it was buried when we were there, but it is a much bigger issue. And I think at the core is like social media, technology, attention deficit disorder that many of us suffer from. I mean, I'm also a user of technology, but maybe because I don't belong to your generation. I mean, I see it with my own children. They have to be on social media. I'm not even on, I don't know the last time I went to Facebook. I'm not on Snapchat, or Insta.
You're on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter, but I don't go to somebody else, accesses it for me. So I'm not a social media person at all. I mean, at best I use WhatsApp.
Okay.
So in a way that's freed me up to not spend as much time on the phone as maybe the next generation does. I don't even check news all through the day.
Okay.
I don't care about it, honestly. I read in the morning and that's enough for me. It doesn't matter to me. I don't pry into other people's lives because I'm not on social media. So that in that sense, maybe those 2-3 hours that people are consuming media, I'm free to do other things. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm working, but it's time to myself. So so I think we grew up in a different era, and maybe as a result we're okay without it and don't have the pressure to be on it. And it's different for this generation for sure.
Ashish, you're also on the advisory board of the new Isaac Center for Public Policy. What are your aspirations with that center?
So I think we were very lucky that Ajit Isaac, who's been a Ashoka founder, was very excited about, funding this new center at Ashoka. The time had come. In fact, Bhaskar Datta and Ashwini and a couple of the other faculty in economics had reached out, and we'd had some discussions around this idea of a center for public. CEDA had already been started, Center for Economic Data. And there was a conversation saying maybe we should, Bharat actually also, along with Bhaskar Ashwini, had reached out saying that we should have a public policy initiative at Ashoka. It so happened that Ajit Isaac got interested, so within a few months, we were able to conceptualize this idea of a center. This is not envisioned to be a school.
Okay.
So it's not like Kennedy School or some big initiative like that. Right now, it's more about how do we, at the undergrad level, offer students, as opposed to just an economics degree or economics and finance, an economics and public policy.
Okay.
So that program has been approved internally.
Okay.
And will be launched for students. I think you may be aware of it already, which I think and there'll be more courses that have a public policy flavor to them.
Yeah.
They'll still have economics at the core, but they'll have a public policy flavor to them. There may even be a couple of practitioners who have PhDs, one of our advisory board members, Isaac Center, is Anup Wadhawan, who was the former Commerce Secretary. Bhaskar knows him well, and he's a trade expert.
Okay.
So he may come in to teach a course on trade. So it's the chance to interact a little bit more with the real world of public policy as well.
Okay.
Right? So one is on the teaching side. The second is exec ed. So we are doing for the first time, in fact, on 19th, 20th of April in Bombay, a session, 2 days on financial regulation.
Okay.
And people from the financial sector are coming, and the former RBI governor, former SEBI chairperson, Chief UK Sinha, the former head of the Bankruptcy Commission. Many of them are, and former finance ministry person. They're all part of this initiative. And we've never done something like this before. So we'll do more in exec ed. And then we've already started getting a number of people to write policy briefs, leading academics, leading retired thinking bureaucrats, etc. And we're getting a few case studies also commissioned.
Okay.
The first one will be on GST, written by the protagonists of GST from the bureaucracy,
okay,
who will be writing it. So I think these will be some of the bodies of work initially. We do have a new, an incoming faculty member
okay,
who is joining the economics faculty, who will be the new academic leader. So Bhaskar was the academic leader, but he always had said that he didn't want to do it forever. And we had a search on to find somebody, and the econ faculty really liked this person. We were able to convince her to leave the US to come here. So she will now become the academic director. And then we have Vikas Dimble, who's the sort of operational
director. Is this
director.
Prachi Mishra?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, and
Prachi is at the IMF, so she's in the process.
Okay. Ashish, in 2017, you mentioned that there are, over the next 5 years, there are 3 key priority areas for Ashoka, which is the establishing the graduate programs, establishing the research profile of the university, and making the sciences distinctive. How far do you think we've come in these areas?
So I think the sciences already are now at least up and running earlier. I think we're still missing some of the physical infrastructure for science, and hopefully after this new building comes up and a couple more, we'll have the right physical infrastructure for science. We have a new microscopy lab. Zeiss actually has co-funded it with Ashoka, which will be cutting edge.
Okay.
One of the best in the country, just coming up. We have a new gift from Infosys to set up a chemistry and life sciences lab at Ashoka. So a whole bunch of things on the science side, which then allow you to do good science.
Just one question. Is it true that this project is called Project Nobel, a newspaper report?
No. The initially when the tech people were interested, they had called the university Project Nobel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with this thing. I think this is just the sciences need more money. So how do you mobilize money for the physical infrastructure to do science, and really now build some of the departments like chemistry, a very very small department. It needs to grow to become a regular department. So I think that the Vice Chancellor is very, very focused on. So I think science now is at least up and running. We have Professor Vijay Raghavan, who's former Principal Scientific Advisor, who is the Chair of the Science Council. We have good department heads in all the departments. The Vice Chancellor himself is a scientist, so understands science. So it gives it a little bit of an impetus, because the science needs a push, but definitely not at the expense of social science and humanities. I think those are already Ashoka's strengths, and they'll continue to grow. As far as research is concerned, it's not that Ashoka is not research active. I think all the faculty are top people from around the world. They're research active. I think the idea was, how do we get more research centers up and running? How do we get more money available for research? Because some disciplines do require more funding to make it happen. How do we build our PhD program and scale it up so that, often the PhDs and postdocs are the ones working with the faculty, do more research, and build more of a research culture within the institution. That is definitely underway. It's a journey. it doesn't happen overnight. But Ashoka always started as doing top class research. It's just how do you increase the quantum significantly going forward, and particularly this PhD program, postdoc program. All that. And the third one, sorry, what did you say? It's
the graduate program.
The graduate. So graduate program, not much has been done other than scaling the PhD program. And partly we're in a bit of a holding pattern because if you look at the NEP 2020, it says you move from a 3-year to 4-year the undergrad, which anyway Ashoka was ready because of 3+1. The master's programs now will be more 1-year programs. So Ashoka had very small subscale master's programs in 4 areas, the 4 master's programs today. We are relooking at all of them in light of NEP to see how we can create very exciting 1-year master's programs. But that journey will still take a couple of years to happen. So we were in a holding pattern saying given NEP 2020 requires a different vision for master's program, let's not jump in and do anything till we create something fresh and exciting. And our desire is the way the undergrad program at Ashoka is quite distinctive and different from other universities. We should be able to do the same with our master's program. They should have more of an interdisciplinary lens as well.
Not pure disciplinary masters.
I mean, there may be some, but how can we, I think what would make it more exciting, which others don't have, is more of an, like with economics, the economics department themselves have talked about the idea of, as opposed to just a master's in economics, we could do in the future a master's in economics and data analytics or, so interdisciplinary masters.
Ashish, in 2024, what is your vision for Ashoka in the short term, say 5-7 years? And you've also mentioned in an interview that there was a Vision 2032 doc. So what is the long-term vision?
So I would say the next, let's take till 2030. One is I think we will scale. So we had 3,000, we'll go to 5,000+ students. So undergrad obviously will scale quite a bit. We'll hopefully start to get a good balance between students the number of students pursuing science is growing every year. And I think that number can still grow further. And I think Ashoka, as it's better known in all disciplines, the numbers should grow. So that's one. Two is this masters I was talking about, repurposing it, coming up with something innovative, distinctive. The numbers will still not be anywhere near as large as undergrad, but can we make it distinctive? I think it's the challenge. And hopefully by 2030 you'll see a few of them that are there. The PhD program, I would think that much like the way the undergrad program is really now aspirational, we have a good PhD program, but with the PhD it's harder because some of the top students from India go abroad for their PhD. So how can we in India build a PhD program that competes with the best? I think success will really be when someone says, I have an offer for a PhD at a top 20 US university, right? But I'm choosing to actually come to Ashoka for my PhD instead. We're not quite there as yet today, but I think we can get there. So we don't have a postdoc program, a very small one. I think we can grow that. So I think there's a number of different programs where there's the part around the physical infrastructure, which will grow quite a bit. In the next 6 years, I think we'll do 2 phases of development. So when what you see today plus the new campus, I think an equivalent of that footprint would have come up. So this combined is about 2 million square feet. We should go to about 4 million square feet by then. And hopefully we'll have more space for sports and other things if we can get some more land, etc. by then. And frankly, we should get a little bit more of an international flavor by then as well. Somewhat more international students, more partnerships, with international universities. And then of course the research part. I think give it 6 years and the metrics around research. Although Ashoka is not just chasing metrics, I think the faculty also believe that just publishing for the sake of publishing, getting volume out, because there's some universities who chase just these rankings. Ashoka is not in that game. So I think just keeping the quality bar high, continuing to increase the volume of what we're doing and supporting the faculty in that endeavor would be an important thing.
And the longer term?
And look, I think the longer term is that we should be a leading university in India. I think the best at interdisciplinary holistic education, the best by far for faculty, for students, the best in terms of the impact alumni have over the next 20, 30 years. I think there's a very exciting phase for India, and I sincerely believe that our alumni can make a big difference in building a strong nation, contributing to economic growth, etc. So I hope we can be part of the process of nation building, as it were. And over a longer period of time, I just hope that the model that we have developed of interdisciplinary, holistic, there are many things that Ashoka does well, percolate and spread through the system. So, like you said, many universities now are doing fundraising well. I'm very happy with that maybe Ashoka pioneered a model, we invested, we started doing well, and the fact that 10 public institutions are doing it really well and 5-10 other private universities are doing it very well. I mean, we would want 100 universities to do it well. Take our playbook and do it as well, if not better than us. Because we want all of higher ed to succeed. We're a non-profit, so it's open kimono, people can come and copy. So I hope that many aspects of the Ashoka model, that would be a bigger contribution almost of just building one institution by itself.
Ashish, just one last question. How do you think the Ashoka journey has changed you as a person?
I think it's made me, one is more aware of what it takes to build. When we started out, we thought, we even referred to the fact that Ashoka was like an Ivy League education in India. I think we had this naive view that, US has built great universities, they tend to be ranked at the top globally, that our job is to do the same in India. And yes, we stand for quality and we can learn from them as well. But really what we want to build is a university in the Indian context, right? Which is rooted in India, where students get exposure to Indian philosophy, Indian history, civilization, as much as a global perspective as well, right? But it has to be rooted in India. And so I think that realization came as we went along. And so for instance, when Professor Kothari and Arunava decided they wanted to set up the Center for Translation, we thought this is a great initiative because there's so many great works in the vernacular that need to be translated, right? And that is something a Western university may do as a small initiative, but Ashoka can be the best at doing it globally for Indian vernacular texts at least. Similarly, we have now a Center for Interdisciplinary Archaeology. Again, our focus is India, right? In doing archaeology, we can be the best, at doing this in India. We have a Center for Social Behavior Change. We worked with Niti Aayog, with some state governments, UP, Bihar now, on pro-poor communication to drive behavior change. Huge contribution to healthcare in particular, public health, and some other aspects around gender as well. So I think all of these things give me a lot of joy because it's really not just things that are trapped in the ivory tower, but things that percolate out of the university that can have broader impact on our society. I mean, students are doing amazing things, whether it's the environment-related clubs who actually go outside the boundary walls of Ashoka or want to impact the community, around us. So that is very reassuring in a sense.
So that's all from my side, Ashish. Thank you so much for taking out the time for this rather long conversation. And more importantly, thank you for doing the work you do.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm so proud of you and all the students at Ashoka.